In addition to introductions, I see a couple of familiar names and organizations, but some that are also new to us. So we'll just give a brief overview of Marquee 360. And then I'm going to highlight just the difference between engagement versus effort, because sometimes we still struggle with, what do those two things mean? How are they managed differently? So we'll go over that very briefly. And then I'm going to go into Planner, specifically a premium plan, and show you what resource management capabilities are within that tool as native functionality. Usually PMOs or other robust teams find that is a little light. And so the Marquee Planner Accelerator, which is a PPM360, adds additional functionality such as that are associated with resource capacity, resource engagement, work hours, and then Power BI insight into resource utilization. So I am Allison Dewey, a customer success manager here at Marquee 360, and I have Charlene with me. Certainly, if anything we discussed is of interest to you, or should you have other questions, I would encourage you to either reach out to Charlene directly, and we can coordinate, continuing the discussion. So Marquee 360, we are a successful Microsoft partner where our areas of expertise are certainly project management and also the Microsoft 365 cloud. The organization was found by a team of industry leaders and was built with a clear vision that basically we want to create solutions that are designed to enhance the operations, efficiency, and growth of your teams, organizations, and perhaps even your customers. We do that by helping you innovate and automate and build efficiencies, addressing whatever specific industry needs or challenges you may have. And we do that by, we try to maximize the technology that you already have, meaning that we look for ways to basically extend and build upon Microsoft 365 and using the Power Platform. So in order to do that, we work very closely with the Microsoft product team, and that helps us determine the best ways to craft those new solutions on the Power Platform. We are committed to your success, so we hope to engage as a trusted advisor. We do take a consultative approach when we design your solutions and elect which is the best platform for those solutions, and then we work shoulder to shoulder with you throughout implementation. That would also include being sure to provide support during any times of transition, and then also training to ensure adoption. Outside of project work, those same services apply. So we certainly are available for training. If you need support in the areas of Power BI, Planner, SharePoint, we have services and are also able to provide workshops such as this. Okay, so engagement versus effort. Just wanted to make sure everyone is clear on the differences. So when we talk about engagement, that's more about the planned allocation or commitment of a resource to a project, just in general terms, how much they are expected to be involved. You'll see later in this event that when we define that, we're typically defining that as a percent. It's a general percentage. It is not a specific measurement of time, because that is what effort is. Effort is the actual amount of work, the time that resources spend performing tasks within the project, because our project teams can have individuals that aren't necessarily assigned work where they need to track their effort. Think about just key stakeholders. Think about those that are more on the peripheral. Maybe they're participating in a meeting here or there, but they're not actually doing work to complete whatever the deliverable may be. So just try and keep that in mind, the difference between engagement versus effort. Okay. So Planner is really good at managing the effort. We have the ability to assign users to tasks, and that can be one or multiple users to a single task. We have the ability to estimate that effort. We can anticipate what the total amount of hours is going to be needed to get that task completed. And then as individuals do the work, they can report, how much effort did they complete, and then Planner will calculate for us, well, what's left. We can actually distribute work in Planner. I'll show you the assignments view where, so instead of it just, if you give a task to two people, it may not be a 50-50 split. And so we can manage that within a Planner premium plan. There is also some insights we can surface. These insights, though, are basically on a plan-by-plan basis. You'll see that we have some charts. We have a people view. We have board views where we can switch up the presentation so it's easy for us to see, how is the work distributed. I will share that Marquee, though, is actually developing a Power BI Planner report pack. So if you're an organization that uses Planner and you wish you could get a little bit more in the ways of reporting, that encompasses more of the entire portfolio, that is something that is currently in the work. It should be heading into testing next week. So let me show you. So here at Marquee, I tend to spend most of my time in Teams. And so I take advantage of using the Planner app in the context of Teams. We are seeing that as Microsoft adds features to Planner, usually they are first available in this Planner for Teams app versus if you were just to go to your browser and go to, planner whatever. So I'm in Teams. I have my Planner app pinned here in the left nav bar. I've clicked it. I have a couple of plans pinned, so I am navigating into this Contoso premium plan and just wanted to show you a few things. So Planner will assume an 8-hour workday. So as I assign individuals to a task, so I will go ahead and I'm going to open this. I'll make it a little bigger for you. So if I were to assign, I'll assign Charlene since she's with me. And we'll make this a 1-day task instead. So the 4th, actually, this is in the past. Let's bring this current. Okay, so here, I'm gonna make that a 2-day task. You'll notice that the hours are changing, and this is based on how Charlene's work hours are set behind the scenes. So in a standard deployment, typically when you are assigning tasks and you don't have that integration, I do because we use the PPM360 solution. Normally you would see that if you were to put in, let's just do a new task. If I were to create a new task, I'll call this demo task. Take my cap locks off. Okay, and I'm actually, what I want to do is I'm going to assign it. Let me move this over here so it's a little easier to see. All right, so here's my demo task. This one I'll assign to, again, Charlene. I'm going to put, where are my dates? layout of this is not so nice. Let's do this. Okay, so I'll put my start date is today, say my finish date is today, the duration's 1 day, and so it's realizing in this case, this task will take Charlene 8 hours. If I change the dates, it's a 2-day task, it's going to be 16 hours. If I change it here and said it was a 4-day task, it's going to then up those hours. If I start to play with the hours down here, it doesn't work reverse. It's not going to say, oh, because you changed this to an 8-hour task, that means that that's less days. That's not the way it works. So it's only moving forward. And then I can start saying, well, yeah, you know what, I'm going to give Charlene these 4 days. It's really not that much work, but I know that she has other commitments. So that's maybe a reason why I would have made that change. So another thing that we can do is, as I said, we can assign multiple individuals to a task. So I'll put in my task. I'll just do it this way because it's kind of easier to see. So again, I'll set a 2-day task. And I'm going to assign, in this case, Charlene. It's going to determine, okay, that's 8 hours. But in this case, I need the work. I have multiple people taking care of the same task. So I'm going to go ahead and add another individual. I'll pick Mike example. So there now. One thing to be aware of is that Planner will not assume, oh, that means you're dividing the work. It assumes you're adding work. So in the case, if you did want this work to be divided, you would then lessen that. So now I have 2 individuals assigned this task. And in this case, we'll just leave it at 16 hours. I mentioned the one capability that these Planner Premium plans have is the ability to actually distribute that work a little bit more granularly. And so that is with the assignments view. So you can see when we come into the assignments view, it's typically going to be, I'm sorry, do we have, I think I saw something pop up in chat. 16 hours for each or 8 each. So they are assuming that each resource is going to have 8 hours for a total of 16.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll be able to see that in a second. So as you can see right now, we're looking at this view and we are grouped by resources. The other option I have is to group this by task. So now I can see here is that task 2 I created. I can see it's assigned to 2 individuals. Right now, we're not in the right place in our calendar, so let's go ahead and move that up. Maybe it was the following week. Yes. So you can see here, it just assumed then, okay, we're just gonna, give them 8 hours. And this is where I could say, actually, Charlene is gonna be responsible for 6 of that, and Mike's actually only doing 2 of that. I could even make it where, Mike's assignment, we could start to change the duration if maybe Mike's only able to work 1 hour on this day and then 1 hour on another day. But this is the view within Planner that gives you, a bit more granular control. The other ways we can view these assignments, we can go into a people view. And so here I see my people, my resources, I see the tasks that they are assigned, and then right now it's grouping the tasks that are assigned by progress. In this case, no one started the work. I could group them by finish date. So you can see here, Charlene has some tasks that are due tomorrow, some that are due next week, some that are further out. So that's another way that I can kind of evaluate the workload. The other built-in visualization, if we go into charts, down here below, we have the ability to see the effort broken out by person, specifically within this plan.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's Eric.
Hi.
Let's say you have a resource that is, on multiple projects. So they cannot work 8 hours on the same day on the same projects. Will will it count that?
It will
Or
not.
so you have to, yeah, okay, so you have to have the visibility on all projects for that resource on a certain task on the same day, making sure that they're not duplicated, so they're not working like 60 hours on a day.
Right. And that's
Okay.
that's the challenge with this. And so as I mentioned, so you would, as you said, need to navigate all these and probably keep notes somewhere. But the report pack that we're developing, the Power BI report pack that will sit on this actually has a resource availability and resource assignment view so that you could see how is this resource spread out across all of those projects.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. Any other questions? Okay. So, some other limitations. So we just, we saw that, yes, we can assign more than one person to a task. We can see in that plan how that task is divided. We can be a little bit more granular in how that work is broken out. But we're missing that whole kind of the ability to create custom resource calendars. Perhaps you have individuals that maybe are only part-time, or maybe, I have a client where they spend 80% of their time supporting projects, but yet 20% of their time they're supposed to be manning the help desk. Resource over allocations, we can't see that in Planner. Cost tracking isn't really available in Planner. Role-based resource assignment, timesheets to capture, when the work was actually done rather than, oh yeah, I put this much time towards it as a general statement. And then that cross-plan resource views that Eric was just asking about. And that's where Marquee's PPM360 solution can be a definite benefit. A lot of those capabilities are either baked into our base solution or they're available as an enhancement, or we have other integrated apps. For example, we have a timesheet solution. Yes.
Can I ask a question? The difference between using just tasks, like assigning tasks in the plan and Teams versus using the planner is basically just by hours. Is that right? You're able to see the resource and add hours to it.
I'm pausing because whenever I create a task in Planner, yes, I'm adding hours. So I'm curious, when you say assigning a task through Teams, what process are you using for that?
Oh, so like if I added a list, like okay. And then I'm adding, and I change the name to, okay, these are the tasks and I'm going to assign them to these resources, and I can give it a date and all that and whether it's in progress. But with this Planner, basically I'm allowed to schedule hours to them. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. So we're going to go into PPM 360, and I'm going to show you these elements. So you're going to see me talk about resource capacity. I want you to know what that means is that what percent of that resources, capacity is available for project work. So in that example I mentioned, like perhaps they're only supposed to be spending 80% of their time committed to project work. In our solution, that value is used for our reports and our heat map, so you'll see that. So for example, Chris may spend 80% of their workday engaged in project work. The other value you're going to see is something labeled default utilization. That is the default level of resource project engagement, meaning that when project managers start building their team, they should be saying, and how much time, or how much of their time are they expected to be engaged in this project? And our system will default it to a value which can then be modified by the project manager based on, what the flow of the work is going to be. This value, once we use that in those projects, it feeds some other reports for those heat maps and comparison. So for example, Chris is expected to, be engaged in project work about 80% of the time. we think it's reasonable for Chris to be managing up to 4 projects at a time. So we're going to set his default utilization to 20%. So when a project manager adds them to the team, they will see, oh, I really shouldn't be planning on this person being engaged more than 20%, but if I need them more than that, I can. And then maybe it's a discussion I have with the resource manager about prioritizing my project in the interim. You're going to see me talk about work hours. So that's effort, where these 2 other things are more about engagement. Work hours, again, that's where we can actually say this resource is typically doing work between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. or 9 to 5, and the task schedule engine uses that to then populate what a day's worth of effort calculates to. It will also limit, if I happen to say that someone's going to be on PTO a particular day, it will not include that date when it's scheduling a task that might include that person's day off. So you'll see me look at work hours. And then you'll see how that feeds resource availability. So we've switched back to the engagement conversation. What happens is our solution will forecast or pre-populate this resource's availability for the year. Again, that's used for those reports. If you know someone's going to go on leave, let's say, or perhaps their priorities are going to shift, you can actually go in there and change that. I'll show you that. And then resource engagement is a view for resource managers to see how individuals are committed to projects across the entire portfolio. Why is it good to use that, to use engagement versus effort, that capacity model? It can reduce some of the administrative overhead for our PMs. They can, month to month, I'm expecting a higher level of commitment. I'm expecting a lower level of commitment, rather than having to go in and keep those hours really tight. Also, when we're planning for our projects, engagement might be understood well before, like, creating any sort of work breakdown. Or, if we're using a Scrum model, we don't really plan work, until we're in that sprint planning phase. But we know, I'm going to need this person on my team. I need this developer. I need this BA. And again, not all team members are assigned tasks. So, but they're still doing stuff. They're still contributing. We still want to account for their participation in our efforts. So that's why that model is used. So I'm going to jump in, and you're going to see, if when we look at me, that I have my capacity in this case is 50%. You're going to see that my default utilization is 25, meaning that when I get put on a project team, it'll show the PM, it'll pre-populate a commitment of 25%. My work hours are pretty standard. I'll be using a resource named Mike. We've got that person's capacity set a little higher. Their default utilization is lower because they're expected to be managing more projects. And then I also have Stella in here, where her default utilization is a little higher. So I'm going to just do some switching here. Hold on. Getting back to my notes. Okay. So I was talking about, this where we are is PPM360. We're basically at the front door, which provides a dashboard of data in the system. And I'm going to go into my resources. And this is where I have a list of all the active bookable resources that may be engaged in projects in one way or another. If I actually open a resource, you'll see that we have some characteristics here. This resource capacity, when you first define a bookable resource, you set what their resource capacity, their availability, basically. And once this record is saved, what that does is, in another area of PPM360, it sets up the values that are going to be used for those reports to see, are they under allocated? Are they over allocated? So you can see here for a period of several years, my capacity has now been set. If for any reason it's known that come next year, I'm going on a fantastic trip at the beginning of the year, and so this was actually going to be less because I'm taking some time off, I can go into the edit grid, and then I can right here, I can start to make some changes if I want to. So, so that's kind of nice. So this again is primarily used when we get into the reports. The other value I mentioned is that default utilization. So when I am put on a project team, it is going to set my level of engagement based on this value. If I change this value, or even this value, it's not going to impact anything that's already defined. So if I increase this to 50%, any projects I've already established, it's not going to affect that. So let me show you what I mean there. So here we have some projects. I'm going to open this one. So project managers will come into PPM360 and they will come in here to define their team. So I will show you if I add, I'm going to go ahead and add Stella. I'm going to, we have many roles you can pick from. I'm just going to say she's a team member for now. And then in my project, I'm going to say that she's going to be engaged for the month of September. She's not actually going to be participating the whole time, but given her whatever her area of expertise is, I'm going to pull her in kind of in the middle of the project. So there's a workflow running behind the scene, and you'll see that when I added myself, it created a line item down here. When we created Mike, it added a line item down here, and soon, there we go. Now we have Stella, and you can see, so Stella, she's going to be committed to the project the month of September, and her default utilization is 50%. And so it has assigned that value. Mike example, right? His default utilization was 20%, and mine is 0.25, and this should probably be carried out further. I can do that by simply clicking in here and saying, yep, I'm actually going to be involved in a couple of months. I should go fix this date. Maybe with Stella, even though 50% is how we typically like her, this project's been prioritized. So when we get to the month of September, I want, all of the time that I know she's supposed to be able to provide. And so now this is that resource engagements area. So again, think of me as a resource manager. I can come in here, and here I can see my resources and what their engagements are. So here's Stella, and I can see these are the different projects she's associated with, and then I could see how her engagement is defined. This one up here is the one we were just working on. All of this feeds up into reports. So right now you'll see I have this filtered on Mike. And so I can see if I'm looking at Mike here, it looks like these months he is absolutely over allocated. And when I say, well, what is going on in July, I can come in here. I could see all of these projects, and I, as the resource manager, could say, you know what, I need to get these PMs into a meeting. We'll pull up that resource engagement, we'll talk through, and perhaps we will work to balance that individual's level of commitment. I also have the ability to see assignments, and that though is specific to task work. So before I talk about assignments, does anyone have any questions about these engagement features? Okay. So the other thing, we have the ability to manage our working hours. So I'll open myself. So here's the tab, working hours. And usually by default, an organization will set kind of their standing working hours, which is typically, in our case, I think our system defaults to like 9 to 5. There you go. If I wanted to, if this person was someone that did not typically work a, let's say, 8-hour day, I'll go into Mike because he's a good example, hence its last name. So here you can see Mike's schedule is different, 1 to 5. And so when I put Mike on tasks, if I give Mike a 1-day task, it'll only be for then 4 hours of effort. Using this, we have the ability to specify non-working hours. We can also define time off, and then that does integrate with when we're assigning tasks. So let's go take a look. So I'm going to open my project, again in PPM360. When I click on tasks, it's Planner. This is how PPM360 integrates with Planner. Let's see. I had a question. Let's see. Do the projects have to be created in Planner, or can you pull from Microsoft Project Online? So our solution does require the use of Planner. If you're an organization that's using Project Online and would want to make a transition to Planner, we do have a migration tool for all of your existing plans. But then also for organizations that have project managers that still use Project Professional Desktop, we are also creating a sync utility so that they can continue to use that project desktop tool and have it sync to Planner, because that's not a native functionality. And that's something that makes Project Online users hesitant to make a transition to Planner. So I hope that answered your question, Emily. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a new task. And in this case, I am going to assign it to Mike, who, remember, has only a 4-hour day. So if I give Mike a 1-day task, we have 1 day. We can always, we're not seeing the effort, so let's go ahead and add that column, right? Oh, it's actually here, so let's pull it over here just so it's easier for us to see together. There. So when I put Mike on a 1-day task, it realized, oh, he's going to be able to give me 4 hours. Me as a project manager, I know this task actually requires more than 4 hours. So I'm going to, give that individual more time till I know they have enough time to get that particular task done, which I know to be a little bit more of a detailed ask. And again, that's just that part of it is just that Planner native functionality. I can still get to in here, just as when we were in Planner within my Teams interface, we still have that assignment view. We still have the ability to group by task. In this case, no one, I haven't doubled the workup on anyone. I do have the ability to make the assignment more granular if I would like. So I could say 2 hours on this day, 2 hours on this day. You could see then it did adjust the finish date. I can view my work like this. I can get a little bit of insight in this particular plan. But again, if I click reports, that's where I'm going to get the resource assignments. And you see over here, I have a number of filters I can use. So for example, if I wanted to just take a look at how Mike is doing, now I can see all the projects that Mike is working on. I can even see the tasks and get some additional analytics. So I shared with you the ability to create custom resource calendars, right? We did that by going into resources, opening our bookable resource, selecting work hours. I can make edits there. Resource capacity planning. So we set a default capacity, which sets their capacity for several years, which we can adjust as necessary. It's that value that is then used by our heat map in our resource availability report. That resource availability and even resource assignments gives us that cross-planning view capability. Other things that are available wasn't necessarily going to demonstrate as part of this. Cost tracking. So we can expand the characteristics or traits of a resource to include a rate if we want to be able to, evaluate the cost of resources when we, have them involved in our projects. Actual work tracking, as I mentioned, we have a timesheet app because otherwise what is being updated is whether it's the team members themselves or the project managers coming in to the tasks and then updating. Let's do this. We've got effort completed. We've got effort remaining. Otherwise it's more of a, overall managed thing. So maybe in this case. And then it'll obviously start to do some calculations for us.
Hello,
so are there any other? Yes, hi.
Yeah, it's Eric again. I was just wondering, the timesheet you talked about. So you have a tool or / an app that exists for that?
Yes. So that particular app, I don't know if I have, let me see if I can. I'm not going to pull it up just because I'm not prepared to do so. So we do have a timesheet app. We can create it where it either uses, it's what we call a Canvas app. What's nice about a Canvas app is the back end is a SharePoint list. So what that means for your users is that they don't need any additional licensing beyond their Microsoft 365 account in order to use that app. They go into the app, they will be presented with timesheets for the week. And then what's happening behind the scenes is the app is staying in sync with their PPM360 or even planner assignments. You do not need PPM360 to use that timesheet app. We do have some customers that elect to do that only. The other way we can develop that app is as what's called a model-driven app. That's where it would be part of this, and it would be a little bit of a different presentation and able to work directly with this data, which is technically in the Dataverse. And in that case, there may be some licensing decisions that need to be made.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If anyone does want a demonstration of the timesheet app. In that case, I would encourage you to reach out to Charlene just so we can learn more about like your current way of managing work, what's working, what's not working, and we could also provide a demo of that tool.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Does anybody else have any questions regarding this? Okay. Erin, I think you are going to be providing a survey. We also have recorded this in case you kind of need to watch this again to understand how everything is connected. Encourage you to visit our website just to learn more about, not only our application that can enhance your use of Planner if you are already using Planner, but then also some of our support services if perhaps what you're doing is working well for you, but you could just use a little more education while Microsoft continues to develop the feature set within Planner, or maybe you're not using that assignments view, or perhaps maybe your teams are confused, with the difference between engagement and effort, and would it be easier for your team to, kind of plan based on some general figures that are easier to manage rather than actual time assignments.